Jones & Jones Painting Company is a Charleston-based painting company filled with residential and commercial painters. I talk one-on-one with the founder and owner of this painting company, Rafael Jones, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Rafael Jones, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me, man.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. Needless to say, you are the founder and the owner of Jones & Jones Painting Company, which is basically a company filled with residential and commercial painters. And I know that with a career spanning over 2 decades in the painting industry, you are a master of your craft. Tell me, what's new, what's now with Jones & Jones Company?
Well, currently we got a lot going on. We just did a rebranding. We had a old logo that I wanted to upgrade because I wanted to appeal to my ideal client base. I learned about that when I was in the Minority Business Accelerator with the Chamber of Commerce. And ever since then, we've been doing rebranding. We've been marketing more. We've been putting more into marketing to reach that client base. We switched our office location, and we're connecting with a lot of builders in the community and the local government municipalities we do work for as well around town and surrounding areas.
Yes, sir. So let me ask you, before the rebranding, Mr. Raphael, what was your client base?
I didn't have one. It was just anybody who needed painting services. I tried to paint for everybody, which ultimately wasn't really the best thing for me because you're busy, but you're not really hitting those margins like you should when when you're just painting for everybody. I'll paint this, I'll paint that, know?
Right.
When you zone in on your ideal client base, you can cater to that base and give them a more quality service. And that's what I learned being in the program.
So now that you've rebranded, what exactly is your client base now?
My client base is, we do work for custom home builders, general contractors. We do small commercial, and we also we tend to like affluent homeowners. We work in Wild Dunes, Dunes West, Daniel Island area, Mount Pleasant, down historical district, and areas like that we do work for. And then we also, the way that we market, we use SEO now. So what that does, it kind of generates like I'd say an organic flow of traffic through the website and social media outlets that, helps customers find us,
Yes, sir.
Opposed to just going out there and winging it. We actually have a plan now, to move forward.
So now that you're moving forward, Mr. Raphael, what is your message? What is your message about your brand?
My message is, we create memories through color. I like to say that because what makes me happy is when we do a good job on a client's house and I see the smile on their face when we're doing the walkthrough and we get the 5-star reviews and everything like that. That's what I stand on, the customer quality of satisfaction that they receive from our services. How the guys carry themselves while they're in somebody's home, because someone's home is their most like intimate space. So we try to make sure we operate as best as we can while we're in there. Before the job starts, I'll walk through with a client before the guys even come through, and I'll just ask them, what can we do to least disturb your way of life every day, as far as music, volume, where to park, small stuff like that, animals if they have animals and stuff like that, so on and so forth. We just try to be mindful of where we're at all times and giving them that quality service and that they're looking for when they book Jones & Jones Painting.
And Raphael, what is that quality service that's really missing from the painting industry?
Well, I'll tell you this. We're in an industry that's not regulated. That means anybody can wake up tomorrow, go to the paint store, get a paintbrush and say they're a painter. But it's a lot more to it than that. It takes a lot of skill level. It takes a lot of learning, staying on top of what's going on in the industry, using different products, new products, stuff like that in the customer's home. Because some customers don't even like to use like oil-based paints and stuff like that because of the smell.
Right.
So a lot of these guys can't even explain what a low VOC paint is. To even explain to a customer like why they don't want that in their home, or they can't explain that they have new products in the home where the paint has no smell at all. And it takes away from the integrity of our industry. It takes away from the quality of work and the craftsmanship that the real craftsmen are out here providing. And a lot of people are running into these fly by night guys that are just kind of like in the way and giving the industry a bad name. And we just try to assure the clients that, we're here to rectify that, what you've been through in the past.
And Mr. Raphael, I wanted to ask you this. So, what is the state of the paint industry as you know? And I know it's probably a redundant question, but what do you look at it as?
I see it as it's still hopeful because there are guys out there that really care about what they do. They really care about the client, because if you start this business, it's not about the money. It has to be something you actually love if you do it every day. And it kind of shows through the quality of work. These guys who try to rush it and just get paid. I rather like we stay on homes a little bit longer because we just make sure that it's right. I have several checkpoints in place. We use SOPs that I give to all of my employees, to where when we walk in the room, if we're doing like an interior of a house, we have a 17-point checklist that we do it in order every time. So you get the same service every time in the same order, and it's going to look the same way every time.
Wow. And Raphael, I wanted to ask you this. So, and you talked about this earlier about those trends. So, what trends are you and your team are currently looking at when it comes to the painting industry?
We're looking at this trend now where people are wanting the geometric accent walls in their house. A lot of guys don't provide that. I've been doing them lately because it's to be a lane that's not really crowded, and it's a lane that it just takes a little bit of patience and studying and learning how to do it. But once you start doing it, it's not that bad, and it adds more value to you if you're the guy that can provide that service. And that's what I'm noticing. A lot of people don't want to spend money on far as replacing new cabinetry because that can get expensive. So they would rather paint it, give it a facelift and stuff like that. So we've been tackling that a lot. We've been doing a lot of cabinet refinishing, and we've been starting to do the accent walls, the geometric shape accent walls, and painting those as well in people's homes.
So, what are the client needs today?
Client needs, you got to think about this. The type of clients that we deal with, they have the means, they have the vision, they know what they want. They just don't have the details, and they don't have to worry about it. They can work and come home. Even if they work from home, we're there all day. We're not disturbing them if they're on the computer. We pretty much know how to operate day to day and make sure that it gets done correctly. That's what we provide the customer, a sense of I'd say comfortability with us, and a sense of just dealing with guys that know what they're doing, and they're going to get that quality craftsmanship every job.
This might be a silly question, but how does the client needs actually meet the community needs?
The client needs, I'd say it meets the community needs because from what I've learned is once I do quality work, the word spreads, and it may be more people in the community that needs my services. And if you do great work, the clients will, start to be promoters for you, and they will spread your name throughout the community where you can give other people that same service. And that's how I see it.
And going back to what you said earlier, Mr. Raphael, about the checkpoints that you give your employees when they go into the home, and you just mentioned obviously some people now, because of what happened in the pandemic 3 years ago, are working from home. They still are to this day. What additional checkpoints that you added to your list?
we have a checklist after the job is done. During the job, I'll come through and we do a quality check. I'll come at the beginning of the job, make sure that everything's covered, make sure that the guys have done everything that they're supposed to do up until that point. Once we're getting close to the end of the job, I do another walkthrough, or I have a project manager come through and do another walkthrough just to put more than one eye on it, because I might miss something that they might catch or vice versa. So we try to do several checkpoints before we even do a walkthrough with the client. If I sign off on it, project manager signs off on it, then we'll get the customer and then we'll schedule them for the final walkthrough, just to make sure that, everything's intact and that they're happy. Most of the time, by the time we do our checkpoints before getting with the client, when we walk through, it's smooth sailing. It's all smiles after that.
Well, that's really good to hear. Now, you talk about obviously having a set of eyes around the house because it's something you might miss. What
Right.
is something that you have missed in the past that somebody else has picked up on that now you're keeping an eye on when you go to the next client's house?
Oh man. Let's say a lot of people now are going with the monochromatic look. So let's say they want alabaster ceilings, they want alabaster trim, alabaster walls. All of it looks the same.
Right.
But if you look at it closely, you can tell the difference in the sheen. If the walls are flat and the trim is a semi-gloss, sometimes the guys will be painting all day and they might miss and hit the trim, and you got to look at that to tell with a bright light to see if there's a flat streak on the trim. It's little small stuff, but it's very detailed. You got to walk through with a fine-tooth comb just to make sure.
And what else are you keeping an eye on when you're walking through these houses?
Making sure that all floors are covered, making sure that all cabinetry is covered if we're not painting them, making sure that all of their belongings are covered, and also I'm making sure that whatever area that pets are supposed to stay in, making sure that the pets are staying in that area and not in the way of the guys that are trying to get the job done. And we also check the floors once we clean up the paper off the floors, because we always cover wooden floors with paper, and we cover carpet with drop cloths and plastic as well.
Wow. So, Mr. Rafi, I wanted to ask you this earlier, but how exactly do you create memories with paint?
We create memories with paint because let's say a client wants their kitchen painted, or they want their cabinetry done in the kitchen, and it's holiday season, and the last time the family was there, the kitchen was dull and everything, and then they get in there and be like, oh my God, this looks like a totally different kitchen. And the family sitting around, they're talking, they're drinking eggnog and stuff like that, and they're talking about your work. That's how we create memories, because people remember that type of stuff.
Wow. So, what return on investment does that fresh paint bring for the actual client?
The return on investment is you add a lot of equity to your house. Equity is very important when you're dealing with a home or you're a homeowner. The more work that you do within a house, the more equity that house receives. Also, they get home loans and stuff like that to get work done and stuff like that as well. They can get it from the equity of the house, and if they choose to sell it, it ups the price as well. I've been involved with projects where a house might be going for $350, but once we paint it inside and out, they might sell it for $435 just based off of aesthetics. So that matters at the end of the day, and that's how it adds to the equity of the home painting. Because a lot of home buyers, you see husband and wives, but the wives really run the show, and the women love aesthetics and how things look. So I try to cater to them for sure.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you this too, but I was thinking about this as you were just saying that. How are homeowners actually investing in new paint jobs, both for the aesthetic enhancement and for the potential return on their investment?
They're thinking about both. Let's say I just finished a project over there off of Clemens Ferry, and it was a custom home that these people spent a lot of money on, but now is worth more because we came in, we painted the inside and outside of the house. So now when the bank comes through after we're finished and does an appraisal, the house goes up maybe $50,000 to $75,000. The client is always thinking about their return on investment as well. Is it worth paying this to get this painted? And then once they do, they realize that it was well worth it.
And Mr. Raphael, I got two more questions for you. But what paint colors do you typically use?
We've been using a lot of, I'd say, agreeable gray lately. We've been using a lot of alabaster. We've been using a lot of Dove White. The Benjamin Moore Dove White, not the Sherwin-Williams Dove White. The Benjamin Moore Dove White seems to be a fan favorite. We've been using a lot of that. Sometimes they want to pop a color with an accent wall or stuff like that. But for the most part, they're either light gray or they're going with some shade of white. It could be Aunt Betty's China. It could be, like I said, the alabaster, the Dove White. They're usually, a lot of people are trying to brighten up their space because to the eye, it makes it look bigger. And I tell clients sometimes, if you go too dark in a room, the room might be an average sized room, but if you use a dark color in that room based off of the natural lighting that comes in that room, it's going to look smaller.
And I know, obviously, you know this too from being here in the Low Country. I've grown up here in the Low Country on the East Side, and I know you're native here in Charleston as well. But
yeah, you know my brother as well.
Oh, who's this?
Adrian Bush.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I told him I had an interview with you today, and he was like, "Man, I know."
Yeah, Burke High School.
I said, "Well, I'll tell him you said hi."
I appreciate that. He's a great guy. He's absolutely great.
Yes, sir.
I know that a lot of new houses are being built here in the Low Country. So, what sustainability and eco-friendly paints do you actually use for those?
Yep. Well, they have a zero VOC paint, and then they have paints that are called green paints. A low VOC paint, VOC stands for volatile organic compounds. That's like if you're using oil-based paint, that strong smell that you smell that people really are not a fan of. And then you have low VOC, which is this very minimal smell, and then you have green paints that are environmentally friendly and you don't smell anything. It doesn't affect the animals or nothing. Wow. And it depends on the client, what they want to do. Some clients, let's say we're doing a house downtown in the historic district, a lot of those houses are using oil-based paints, but now the new owners may want to switch over to the low VOC paint.
Right. Right.
Just to bring.
That's right.
Date before coats, and then for in their space.
And I know, obviously, you use a lot of paint. So, which paint actually describes you?
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever had anybody ask me that. I want to say I'd have the Ben.
Right.
Dove White. And I'll say that because with anything, if it can match up with anything, it makes the room look nice and smooth. I'm a smooth guy. And I think I'd say Ben Moore Dove White. I ain't never had nobody ask me that question. That was a good one.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm always thinking. Yeah.
I ain't never had that one asked in the interview before.
Hey, yeah, that's what I do.
I'm gonna think on more today. I'm gonna think on that some more today because there's so many different colors.
Yes,
even when you talk about whites, there's so many different whites, and sometimes I have clients, and it's not a lot of them, but sometimes you run into that one client who has like 20 samples, and you gotta kind of tone this down to at least 5, and we'll pick from 5 because once you start going too high up in samples, it gets crazy. So we just try to keep them around, deciding on 5 colors, and then we go from there.
Wow, that's really amazing. Well, Rafael Jones with Jones & Jones Company Painting, thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.